So what can you do to stay fit if you have a lower body injury? Well, the number one goal whilst injured is to rehab the injury as quickly as possible so you can return to play, but we can also use that window to do as much other work as possible to either make the return to play a little bit smoother and a little bit quicker, or to strengthen other areas of our game. So the first thing I'm going to look at is, can we work around the injury if it's a lower body injury? So if you have a knee injury, then you need to be thinking about if you can train the opposite leg. So there's something called the cross-training phenomenon, where if you train one leg, you can get neural strength gains in the other leg as well, and that can help to maintain or increase the strength of the opposite leg which is injured, and that can help to make the return to play process a little bit smoother and a little bit easier, as you wouldn't have lost as much strength, and therefore you don't need to spend quite as much time regaining strength in that leg when you're cleared to train and play. So if it's an ankle injury, it might be slightly different, but if it's an ankle injury, you can likely train that leg and the opposite leg as normal in terms of machine exercises like hamstring curls and leg extensions. We might also be able to do things like split squats. So if my left ankle is injured, I might be able to put my right foot forward and do a split squat with my left foot elevated in a comfortable position. So you might have to work on the setup, and it might cause you some pain. If it causes you any pain or anything like that, or your physio advises you not to, then I wouldn't do it. But there's no reason why you couldn't do that if it's not going to affect your injured ankle, and you can carry on training your uninjured leg. This is also a good time to do true single leg work for the uninjured leg. So exercise like single leg deadlifts and single leg squats to a box are really good exercises for ankle, knee and hip stability. And they're things that we can do without affecting our uninjured leg at all. So that's a good window to try and work on stability. And also, as I mentioned before, split squats are a great one. So if we can't do any training for our lower body, we're going to be thinking, well, how can I keep my training loads high? So what I mean by training loads is the overall work that you do in a given week or a given time period. So if we are used to doing lots of work, lots of training sessions, and maybe 2 games in a week, and then we have 2 weeks doing absolutely nothing in terms of games or exercise, if we try and play in the next week, we've got a pretty good chance of getting injured because it's a huge spike in our training loads. So our body can deal with and likes gradual increases, but it doesn't like huge spikes, and often our problems come when we do have huge spikes. So the way we can limit our return to play time once we're cleared from the injury is to keep our training loads as high as possible, so then we don't have to spend a lot of time gradually building up these training loads, so then we can get back to playing. So there are different ways we can maintain our training loads. The best one is probably going to be referred to as something like off-feet conditioning. So there's a number of modalities we can use for doing conditioning and interval type training that's not going to affect our lower body at all. So one of the things that's really useful for this is battle ropes. It's really easy to set up a phone next to you, so you're recording your work to rest periods. You don't have to worry too much about setting a time again and again. You can use a nice timer you might have, and we can do things like slams and different other battle rope exercises. So we can do a variety of things. I always like a 4-minute set. I think that works quite nicely. And we could do anywhere between 10 seconds work and 50 seconds rest, or we can go up to something like 30 seconds work and 30 seconds rest for a 4-minute block. And we can do up to 4 sets, but I would build that up to 4 sets. Another thing we can do to keep our fitness is using a row machine with one leg on a slide board. So not all gyms will have a slide board, so you might not be able to do this, but it's essentially something where you can put a little cloth shoe over. It's like almost like a hairnet. You can put that over your shoe and it's going to slide on the slide board. Gabriel Jesus was actually seen doing this during one of his injured periods from last season. So you continue to maintain your aerobic and anaerobic fitness whilst rowing. And essentially you would only have one foot slotted into the rowing machine, the other foot would slide next to the actual rowing machine. So you might be able to do this by using a flannel on a piece of wood if that's the setup of where your rowing machine is. But it's just an easy way where you can keep maintaining your fitness whilst having your lower body injured and without making anything else worse. The third thing I'd be thinking about is what weaknesses can you work on during this period. So injury periods can actually be a blessing if you look at it positively, as you can assess other areas that affect your game. Something like upper body strength that you don't normally prioritize could become a good focus during this period, and you could really work on improving that. So whilst injured, you're going to have less overall work. Whatever way you look at it, however you maintain your training loads, you're never going to be able to match the work that you do in your weekly trainings, your weekly gym sessions, and your weekly games. And because of this less overall work, you can actually find it easier to progressively load exercises for your upper body as you'll have more overall energy. So say if you're focusing on exercises like the bench press, so we can hold players off and push players away when we need to, we can progressively overload these exercises easier than we would do otherwise. So what I mean by progressive overload is making the exercise harder week by week. There's 3 simple ways of doing that. We could add weight to each set week on week and keep the sets and reps the same. We can add a set each week and leave the weight and the reps the same, or we can actually add in reps to each set and leave the sets and the weight the same. So basically you're just making it harder each week, which might be actually really difficult to do if you've also got your, say, pre-season training sessions where you're doing lots of conditioning and also lots of other lower body strength work in the gym. But if you take those things away, it's a lot easier to progress upper body exercise and really get stronger in that period. So I've listed 3 really simple things and questions you need to ask yourself. So what can you do to work around the injury to keep your lower body strong? Then you're going to look at how you can keep your training loads high. So what work you can do in this period to maintain your fitness. And then you also need to look at your weaknesses in this period and how you can increase those things. And if you're ticking those 3 boxes, or at least kind of touching on those three criteria during your injury periods, then you're going to be able to maintain your fitness and probably be able to come back from your injury much quicker than if you weren't doing these things of these work modes. So if you found any value for this, then share it with one of your teammates and hopefully they can get back from injury a little bit quicker as well.